Well, hello there to everyone, and welcome to this first session in January of the LGM, the Lead Generation Masterclass series. I'm absolutely thrilled to kick off 2026 with you today, and I can tell you right now, this is going to be a game changer year for LinkedIn outreach. So if you're watching this live on LinkedIn, feel free to drop a comment and let me know where you're joining from. I love seeing our community come together from all corners of the world. Seriously, take a second, just type in the chat and let me know where you are and what you're hoping to get from today's session. So now let's get straight into it. Today, we're talking about the LinkedIn outreach revolution of 2026. And I promise you, by the end of this session, you'll understand exactly why this year is different, what's changed on the platform, and most importantly, what you can do differently to stay ahead of your competition. Before we dive in, let me give you a bit of context about where I'm coming from. I've been in the LinkedIn outreach game for years, and I've seen tens of thousands of messages, tested hundreds of different approaches, worked with over 170 businesses across different industries. So anything you can imagine, I've probably been there, and I've seen what works and what spectacularly doesn't work. And over the past 12 months, I've watched LinkedIn fundamentally transform how their platform operates. So let's start with a bold statement. Everything you knew about LinkedIn outreach in maybe 2023 and 2024 is now outdated. Well, that's not wrong. It's not irrelevant, but it is outdated. LinkedIn is fundamentally how it prioritizes content, monitors automation, and how it rewards genuine engagement with the platform. So if you're still using the same playbook that you had 2 years ago, you're already behind. And if you're new to LinkedIn outreach, congratulations. You're actually in a much better position because you're not carrying some of those old habits that need unlearning. But here's the good news, and this is where today it's all about. It's all about understanding some major changes that you can actually get better results than ever before. And LinkedIn hasn't made outreach harder; they've actually made it smarter, and that's exactly where we're going to dive in deep today. So over the next kind of 40 minutes or so, I'm going to walk you through the exact strategies that are working right now in 2026. This is not theory, it's not guesswork, but it's actually proven data-backed approaches that are generating real conversations and real revenue for businesses just like yours. So, as we dive into section one, I call this the evolution of the platform. We're going to talk about understanding what's changed. I'm going to break this down into three major shifts that LinkedIn has implemented, and each one fundamentally affects how we do outreach. Now, some of you might already be aware of some of these changes, but I guarantee you're not seeing the full picture of how they're all interconnected. And that's what we're about to unpack. So, shift number one is the algorithm now prioritizes authenticity. Yep, that magic word, it's been lingering around for some time. So, LinkedIn's algorithm has become incredibly sophisticated at detecting genuine human interaction versus automated spam. And in kind of late 2025, towards the end of the year, they actually rolled out what they're calling authenticity score. Actually, every account now has this invisible score that determines how far your connection requests travel, how many in-mails you can send, and even how visible your profile is in search results. So you might be thinking, well, I use automation tools. Does that mean I'm finished? Absolutely not. And let me be clear here, I'm not anti-automation. Of course, at Leadeth, we literally build automation tools for LinkedIn outreach. But what it means is that blind spray and pray automation is finished. LinkedIn can now detect those patterns. So if you're sending 100 identical connection requests every single day with no variation, you're getting flagged. And if you're messaging people and they're never responding to their replies, you're getting flagged. If your profile has minimum activity and then suddenly you're all of a sudden connect people in a week, you're going to get flagged. So the revolution is here. You can You must automate intelligently, and your sequences need variation. So your profile needs genuine activity. Your responses need to be timely. Think of it this way: LinkedIn wants the platform to feel human, even if you're using technology to scale it. And we'll talk about exactly how to do that in a moment. And there's something that most people don't realize, and that's your authenticity score isn't just about what you do wrong, it's also about what you do right. So if you're getting high acceptance rates on your connection requests, that's going to boost your score. And if people are replying to your messages, that also will boost your score. If you're engaging with content regularly, that's going to boost your score. So LinkedIn is essentially rewarding good behavior whilst punishing bad behavior. And it's actually brilliant when you think about it. The second major shift is connection request acceptance rates have dropped. We've seen this across the board. And here's a statistic that should get your attention. In 2024, the average connection acceptance rate was around 35 to 40%, really high. And in 26, we're actually going to see that drop between around about 25 and 30% across most industries. Now, before you panic, let me explain what's really happening here. I think there's two reasons. Firstly, people are just so much more cautious. They've been burned by poor outreach. They've accepted connection requests that immediately someone starts pitching to them without any relationship building. They've been added to automated sequences that felt very spammy. They're much wiser now. So they've developed what I call outreach fatigue. They can spot a sales pitch disguised as a connection request from a mile away. And LinkedIn is showing fewer connection requests in people's notifications. So if you have maybe 20 pending requests, LinkedIn will now only show you maybe 5 or 6 in the notifications panel. So you're literally competing for visibility even at the connection stage. And this is very deliberate. LinkedIn wants to reduce overwhelm and improve the quality of the connections that are actually being made. So what this means for you is that your connection requests might need to be exceptionally good. Gone are the days of hi, let's connect. You need to give people a real compelling reason to accept that connection request. So we need relevance, we need personalization, and we need to demonstrate value immediately. Show you how we do that in the next section. But here's the flip side, and this is important. Whilst the overall acceptance rates have dropped, the targeted personalized connection requests have actually been performing much better than ever. And we're seeing, 60, 70, sometimes 80% acceptance rates when your targeting is super right and the message really demonstrates that genuine value that you're going to provide. So the opportunity hasn't disappeared. It's just become a little bit more selective. And shift number 3, the kind of major shift 3, is the sales navigator advantage has really increased. Now, LinkedIn quietly made sales navigator much more powerful than ever, whilst simultaneously limiting what free accounts could do. So if you had a free LinkedIn account, you'll notice how the number of things you can send out has really been restricted. And that gap has actually widened really significantly. I'm going to address it does affect your strategy. With Sales Navigator, you get priority in-mail delivery, advanced search filters that free users just don't have access to, and most importantly, your messages bypass some of the authenticity scoring penalties that the regular accounts face. So LinkedIn is essentially saying, if you're serious about sales on our platform, then invest properly. Now, I'm not here to sell you Sales Navigator. LinkedIn, does that job for themselves. But let me give you my honest take. Not everyone needs Sales Navigator. But if you're doing outreach at scale, if you're a B2B business, and if LinkedIn is really your primary lead generation channel, and you're going to make it your priority in 2026, then you need to make that investment. The return on investment with Sales Navigator has never been clearer. I had clients tell me, I can't justify the cost. And when we run the numbers, Sales Navigator, it costs what it costs. It's about £96 with the VAT now per month here in the UK. And that's the Sales Navigator Core, the version. We're not confusing this with premium. I'll do another video in a few more days about comparing the different subscriptions. But if you can close one additional client, then what's that worth to your business? For most B2B companies, it's thousands of pounds. So the return on investment calculation is quite simple. So don't be, foolish here with invest in the right tools that are going to deliver some really good impact, but you need to know what you're doing with the tools. So I want to emphasize Sales Navigator isn't a magic wand. It's just a power tool like any other tool. It's only good as the person using it. And you need strategies. And we're going to cover some of those today, whether you're on the free version or Sales Navigator Professional account, the core account. The fundamentals don't change. That Sales Navigator is just giving you a little bit more leverage. So section 2 is looking at what's working right now. So we've covered what's changed. Now let's cover actually what's starting to work in 2026. And these strategies are what we're seeing delivering results across hundreds of different campaigns right now. So this is real businesses, real results, and real data. Now, strategy 1 is what I call the value first connection request. Instead of asking for a connection, you need to offer something immediately. And here's the framework. It works a little bit like this. Identify their current satisfaction or their current situation. Once you identify where they're at, you acknowledge the specific challenges or the opportunity that they're currently facing. And you can even mention something really tangible that you can share. For example, I might put out in a post, hi Sarah, I noticed your recent post about scaling content production. I've got a framework that we use to triple our output without adding headcount. Happy to share if useful. You see what happened there? So you've actually demonstrated that you're paying attention. You've identified a real need. You've offered the value upfront before asking for anything in return. And your acceptance rate will actually double compared to some of those generic requests that you see. Now, I'm going to give you another example because I want you to see and really understand the pattern. So let's say you're targeting marketing directors in SaaS companies, a little bit, what I do. So a bad connection request might say, hi, I help SaaS companies with their marketing. Let's connect. That is just so lazy. It's forgettable. It's going to get ignored. So a good connection request would be personalized. It would say, I saw your company just raised Series A. Congratulations. Been through the growth phase myself. The next 12 months are going to be wild. Happy to share what worked for us on the marketing side if you're interested in comparing notes. So do you see the difference in those two? I mean, one is very much about you and one is very much about them. One is very generic and one is very specific. One asks solution. We've got to stop thinking about what we want from those connection requests and start thinking about what is the value that you can provide in the connection. Strategy number 2 is the 48-hour engagement window. So here's something that most people really miss, and it's costing them massively. When somebody accepts your connection request, LinkedIn then gives you a 48-hour window where your first message gets priority visibility in their inbox. After 48 hours, you're then competing with everyone else. So this means you can't wait a week to follow up. You've got to have a system where you're messaging those new connections within 24 hours maximum. And here's the key. Don't pitch. Use that first message to continue the value conversation that you started in the connection request. So you need to ask a relevant question, maybe share a resource that you mentioned. Really start to build the relationship. And we're actually seeing response rates of around about 40 to 50% on these first messages when they're done right. And that's extraordinary in today's environment. So let me give you a specific example of what this looks like in practice. So you've got that connection request. Hi, James. I noticed you're building out your sales team. I've got a hiring framework that helped us scale from 3 to 30 reps without happy to share it if it's useful. And then within that 24-hour window after they've accepted, you might come back, James, thank you for connecting. As promised, here is the hiring framework I mentioned. We've used this to assess over 200 candidates. The scoring system on page 3 is particularly useful. Let me know if you have any questions about how we implemented it. So you're delivering real immense value up front. You're keeping the conversation going and you're building trust. And you're not asking for anything yet. And this is how you stand out in 2026. Now, a lot of people are using systems like Leadeth. That's very much an AI powered. We use the Claude engine to pull off all this. So it happens in the background. So you don't need the brain power to kind of come to the campaign table and say, send this, send this, send this. The beauty is AI is doing all of this on your behalf. So if you'd like to explore that, I'll give you some links at the end of the session. Strategy number 3 is what I call profile activity before outreach, or some people call it engagement. Remember, authenticity scoring. I mentioned it right at the start. Well, this is how you game it ethically. Before you start any major outreach campaign, just spend a couple of weeks being genuinely active on LinkedIn. Comment on your posts in your industry, share valuable content, engage in discussions, and just get your profile really warmed up. Now, LinkedIn's algorithm really notices this. When you start sending connection requests, you're not a cold account suddenly going aggressive. You're actually an active community member, expanding your network, and that subtle difference has a massive impact on your success rates. And I also want to address something here because I know some of you are thinking, I don't have time to be active on LinkedIn. I'm too busy running my business. I get it. And that's why I created Leadeth. But let me reframe this for you. You don't have time not to be active on LinkedIn if it's going to be a primary goal in terms of lead generation channel for you. And we're only talking 15 minutes a day for the kind of some of the manual stuff. I tend to go to my main headline, and up on the right hand side, you'll see some top news articles that are trending recently. So those are fantastic places to just click on and write in a little comment or reshare one of those news articles because they're getting really good reach. Something that's trending, 3,000 views currently. People are going to see you. People are going to see your profile more. So that's one little top tip there. Our fourth strategy, which we're going to look at today, is multi-touch, multi-channel. LinkedIn should never be your only channel. And the most successful campaigns in 2026 are going to be using LinkedIn, a relationship opener right at the start, top of funnel, moving into email, and then potentially to a phone or video. And that's what we call the channel escalation strategy. And here's how the sequence works. You connect on LinkedIn, send your first message on LinkedIn, second message on LinkedIn, and then if needed, maybe say something like, I'd love to continue this conversation. Would email be easier for you? Get their email address. Often people will share it on LinkedIn anyway. Move that conversation there and then close the deal. Why does this work? It works because LinkedIn is just so noisy. People get dozens of messages, and email just feels so much more personal, much more direct. And you're essentially using LinkedIn to earn the right to reach them elsewhere. But here's the critical bit. You're not immediately asking them for a meeting. You're not immediately trying to close. You're actually gradually building the relationship across channels. Think of it like dating. You don't propose marriage on the first date, although I almost did. But you can have a coffee, then dinner, and then meet their friends, and then you maybe move in together, and then you propose. I don't know about the move in together bit. That doesn't really align with me, but these days it's often the done thing. LinkedIn outreach is the same. You just connect, you have a conversation, then you move to email, then you have a call, and then you can propose a business relationship. It's very much a journey and it's not transactional. So here's where most people mess this up. They try to compress that journey right down into one message. Hi, I don't know you, but let's have a meeting to discuss how I can sell you something. And that's not relationship building. That's just laziness disguised as efficiency. So our fifth and final strategy 5 is what I call the content supported approach. And this is perhaps one of the biggest shifts that I'm seeing right now in 2026. And it's one that I think is creating the most dramatic results. Certainly it is for my VA, Victor, in Nigeria. He's been posting content so consistently, and it's great to see his number of likes and engagement on his content as well. But most successful outreach doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It's actually supported by a content strategy. So we look at this at Leadeth when we build outreach campaigns. We also think about how can we bolt on a content strategy. And this is what I mean. You're posting valuable content on LinkedIn really regularly. Someone from your target market then engages with your post. They may just like it, thumbs up. They may even make a comment. And that engagement is then your permission to then connect with context. And your connection window, that connection request isn't cold. It might be something like, "Hi, James. I noticed you commented on my post about sales automation. Would love to connect and continue that conversation." Um, so your acceptance rate on these contextual requests is actually going to be something like 60, 70, sometimes even 80%, because you've already demonstrated the value. And you've already shown that interest to you, so it just makes sense. It's a much more warmer introduction. Now the revolution is here, and outreach and content aren't separate strategies anymore. They're very much integrated, and your content that you create actually opens up opportunities for real relevant outreach. So your outreach is going to amplify your content, and it's just a beautiful cycle. So let me give you a real example from my own business. I post about LinkedIn outreach mistakes, and that got about 50 comments. I commented with every single person referencing their specific comment in my connection. And the acceptance rate was huge. It was 87%. I then continued those conversations and moved them to emails and booked 12 meetings. And that's the power of real content supported outreach. And here's the best part. The people that you're connecting with, they already like you. They're already engaged with your content, and they know your expertise. The conversation starts warm, and compare that to cold outreach, where you're starting from zero trust. It's night and day. So we're going to move on to section 3, and this is what to stop doing immediately. So now let's talk about what to stop doing. These are the best practices that will kill your results in 2026. And I'm going to be brutally honest here, because I've seen businesses make these mistakes every single day, wondering why their LinkedIn outreach isn't working. So we've got to stop sending generic connection requests. If your message doesn't reference something specific about that individual or their business, then don't send it. You're wasting your time and you're damaging your authenticity score. And I see this constantly. "Hi, we're in the same industry, let's connect." Or worse, no message at all, just a blank connection request. And that's not networking, that's just really lazy. And in 2026, lazy does not work. Here's what you need to understand. Every generic connection request that you send isn't just inflective, it's actually harmful. It damages that authenticity score. It trains LinkedIn's algorithm that you're a spammer, and that when you eventually try to send good, personalized connection requests, LinkedIn has already decided that you're not trustworthy. Dug yourself a hole before you even started. So another thing is stop pitching first message. Even in January 2026, I'm still getting this, and I can't stress it enough. When someone accepts your connection request and you immediately, respond with a sales pitch, you've just confirmed the worst fears about why you wanted to connect. It's got to be relationship first, always. So let me paint you a picture. Someone accepts your connection request. Great. They're interested in who you are. And then within 30 seconds, you then send them a message. "Thanks for connecting. I help businesses just like yours with X. Here's my calendar. Let's book a demo." So, what have you just done? You've told them the only reason you wanted to connect with them was to sell them something. And that's destroyed any trust. So you've confirmed that you're exactly like every other spammer on the platform. And here's the thing, um, they can see right through it. We can all see right through it. We've all been on the receiving end of these sorts of messages, and we know the pattern, and it doesn't work. The data proves it. The pitches in the first messages have response rates of 5% or less, and that's really bad. So the another top thing not to do is to stop using the same message template for everyone. And this is what I used to teach him back in 2023 or 2022 when we first started doing a lot of outreach. We had templated copy paste, copy paste. Now, yeah, templates work really well for efficiency, but those templates do need variables that personalize them. So things like the name, the company, the industry, a recent achievement. It could be mutual connections, something that shows that that message was handcrafted for them specifically. Viewing a campaign, and someone was sending the exact same message, probably to around about 50 people a day, word for word. No variation, no personalization, just copy, paste, send. And they wondered why nobody was really responding, because it's actually absolutely obvious. People can tell when they've received a templated message. So the solution isn't to write 50 completely unique messages because that's just not scalable. The solution is to have smart variables. So, hi, first name, noticed, and then maybe what you specifically observed about their company. You could throw that in there. We've helped similar industry businesses with relevant challenge. So the relevant challenge would be specific to their business or their industry. We'd love to share what had worked. So hopefully you can start to see the difference. Yes, it's a template, but it forces you to do some research up front. It forces you to personalize, and it forces you to demonstrate that that you've actually looked at their profile, their company, their situation. Here's another one. Stop ignoring your LinkedIn profile optimization. So your LinkedIn profile is being viewed before people would accept that connection request. If it just looks like a CV, if it's not been updated, if there's no clear value proposition, then you're losing opportunities before your profile is to sell on your behalf. And I see this all the time. Someone sends me a great connection request. I'm interested. Then I click on their profile to see who they are, and it's a disaster. The headline says sales manager at company X. I mean, the about section you go to, it would just be a chronological career history, and there's no clear value proposition. There's no social proof. There's no recommendations. And then I just think, why would I want to connect with this person? What value will they bring to my network? So your profile isn't a CV. It's actually a sales page. Every element should answer the question, why should someone care? Your headline should clearly state who you help and how. Your about section should focus on the results you deliver and your not just your career history. And that featured section where you can bring in 3 or 4 different showcases, that's for you to showcase your best work, your best content, and your best results, what you've achieved. And if someone lands on your profile and doesn't immediately understand what you do and who you help, and if that happens, then you've failed. It's that simple. So fix your profile before you do any outreach. It's the foundation of everything else which you've built on. So we've actually got at Leadeth something called the Clarity Framework. And stage 1 is very much that. Understanding your ICP, understanding who you're reaching out to, making sure that profile is landing with clarity to the audience. So someone straight away can see exactly what it is you do and how you do it. And it should put people off as well. If it's, if you put I help companies between 1 and 5 million, and if it's someone coming in and their company's not in that bracket, then that's really good filtering because we don't want to be speaking to those people. So think about getting specific. And a common mistake that I see is people measuring the wrong metrics. So connection requests sent is not a success metric. The number of messages you're sending is not a success metric. The only metrics that matter are the conversions, the conversations, and the meetings that you've booked, and the actual revenue that you've generated. So celebrating activity, and they're just actually results. So it's very dangerous because it creates a very false confidence. Someone tells me I sent 500 connection requests this month, and I say, "Well, great. How many meetings did you book?" And then they go a bit quiet on me. Activity is not achievement. So sending the 500 connection requests means nothing if you've only got 50 acceptances and 5 responses and 0 meetings. You've just wasted your time and potentially damaged your authenticity score for nothing. So here's what you should be tracking. I like to track the acceptance rate. I like to track the response rate. And when we're talking about acceptance rate, that's the percentage of people that have accepted your connection request. So if you've sent 100 and only 50 people have accepted, then you've got a 50% acceptance rate. The response rate is the number of people that have responded. And normally it's out of the people that have connected. So if you've got a 50% response rate from the 50, that means you've had 25 responders. And obviously, a response rate could be a positive response, it could be a negative response. So we also think about conversion rate. So, how many of those responses are we able to convert to a positive interested reply? And then you've got your meeting rate, and that's the number of meetings. So if you go back to the stats and say, right, I've put 500 connection requests out, and that has generated me XYZ meetings. That's really good stat to understand what that meeting rate looks like. And you can look at it at every different stage. And ultimately, you want to be measuring how much revenue you're generating per connection. So those are just some of the metrics that we measure, and they tell us if your strategy is working or if you're just being busy. And here's the truth: most people track activity metrics because they're much easier. They're easier to fetch from the analytics, and they just feel it. And we do say activity is really important. If you go to a campaign and there's just 0 connection requests going, then we have to have serious chats with clients to help them, support them, and to get some campaigns up and running faster. So it's psychologically satisfying what you say about those sent 500 messages, whereas I'm very uncomfortable to admit that only 2 people replied. But you can't improve what you don't measure, honestly. So section 4 is our final wrap-up section, and let's bring all this together with a bit of a practical action plan that you can implement today. And I don't want you to leave this video with just theory. I want you to leave with a real roadmap that you can start executing tomorrow. And I just apologize, I didn't have time to put a full slide deck together for this. I got to about slide 9 and then I was out of time. So apologies, but if you think you'd like to watch a replay, we'll make it available on YouTube as well. And it's also here on LinkedIn as well. So we're going to talk about reviewing that LinkedIn profile. That is the priority task for you today. You need to look at your profile as if you're seeing it for the first time. Update your headline, your about section. Make sure that you're showing up as someone worth wanting, someone worth connecting with. Check out your acceptance rates been. What sort of response rate did you get? Get those baseline numbers. It's great to kind of a starting point. So think about that profile in a bit of detail. Pull your numbers maybe from the last 30 days. So how many connection requests did you send? How many were accepted? How many people responded to your messages? And how many meetings did you book as a result of those messages? Write those down, and those are going to be your benchmarks. So everything we do from this point forward is all about improving those numbers. That normally takes about a week for people to get around to do that. And then by week 2 is when we need to think about content. We need to start posting valuable content. I like to say twice a week as a minimum. Some people, go for a day. This is about quality, not quantity. So don't worry about perfection. Share some insights from your work. Maybe ask some questions. Engage with others' content in a very genuine manner. There are LinkedIn pods there. I'm not sure how the algorithm treats those LinkedIn pods, but maybe that's a conversation for another day. So I've been a part of a couple of pods, and it's very easy to get a quick reach on a post using those sort of pods. But try to build something that's just all going to help that authenticity score, and also create some outreach opportunities off the back of the content you're putting out there. I know what you're thinking. I'm not a content creator. I don't post, or here's the secret, you don't need to be. This is 2026. You've got to be a value provider. Share what you're learning, share what you're seeing in your industry, and share what's working for your clients. Share what's not working, and maybe ask for people's opinions. Polls are really good for starting discussions. And that content, it doesn't need to be polished. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's just got to be helpful. That's it. One post might just be a quick lesson that you've learned this week. Another post might be a question you're wrestling with. Another might be, you're celebrating a client win. Mix it up. Keep it real. Be human. You can use things like ChatGPT and Claude for great ideas. Within the Leadeth platform, we've actually got a content creator agent that's trained on your content, trained on your voice, your tone, your brand, and it suggests you content each week or twice a week. So if you want to explore that, feel free to schedule a discovery call with me. Just click the link in my LinkedIn profile and we can hop on a call and talk about this stuff. Anyway, engage with other people's content. Remember, this is crucial. So find maybe 10 people in your target market who are posting regularly. Comment thoughtfully on their posts, not just great post. That's lazy. Add some value. Share your perspective. Ask maybe a follow-up question. And that does two things. It gets you on their radar and it trains LinkedIn's algorithm that you're active, that you're a valuable community member. So by week 3, this is where we need to start thinking about strategic outreach and have a bit of a launch. So you identify your top 50 dream prospects. You can research each one, find something very specific about them, and then you've got to craft a personalized connection request. Don't forget you're limited to 270 characters often in that initial outreach. If you're on a free LinkedIn account, sometimes they truncate it down to 175 characters. And then, sometimes you can't put any connection request message. You've got to just send them blank. So I save the blank ones for people I definitely know and have met in person already. So use the value first framework that we spoke about. Spend maybe 10 minutes a day or do 10 dream prospects per day as a minimum. And then by the end of the week, you've got that full 50. This is about quality over quantity. And this is where everything comes together really nicely. You've optimized your profile, you've activated your content, that's happening, and you've warmed up your account. Now you're ready to start the outreach, strategic or outreach. So 50 dream clients, not 500. Don't worry about the big numbers, the 2,000. Just focus on those 50 dream clients because you can't close business from 50 perfectly targeted prospects. Sending a connection request to 500 poorly targeted prospects isn't going to help your focus. So focus on the quality. Go for the best 50 that you could possibly get hold of. And just spend some time researching each prospect before you reach out. We've actually got some pre-meeting prep, Claude engines, projects, AI agents, and we can actually drop a LinkedIn profile into Claude and it will basically spit out the pre-meeting thing. It tells us all about their personality styles. It tells us about the psychometrics and stuff like that. So we're actually building some really intelligent stuff that happens in the background at that research stage before you even kind of land a meeting. So you can understand their approach and how they would like to receive a message, just to improve those rates and those ratios. So send around about 10 a day. More isn't necessarily better. Just stick with those 10. Be diligent and do the 10. 10 thoughtful, research, personalized connection requests is easily going to outperform 100 generic copy paste requests every single time. So by week 4, about the conversion focus. So everyone who accepts, follow up with them within that 24-hour window. Remember, continue the value conversation and look for opportunities to kind of move to email or book a call. Track those conversion rates, set up a spreadsheet, keep it super simple. And that's where most people drop the ball. They get connected, they get a really good acceptance rate, and then they do nothing. Or they just wait maybe 3 days or 7 days before they do their first follow-up. Or maybe they send a generic message back. Don't be that person. You've done the hard work to get that connection, and now you've got to nurture it. Send that follow-up message within 24 hours, deliver on the value, and you've already promised in your connection you're going to do that. So ask a thoughtful question. Start a real conversation with the individual. Don't forget to look for those buying signals. So if someone is really engaged and if they're asking specific questions and if they're showing interest, And that suggests they want to move the conversation maybe to email or get them into a call. Don't be pushy, but don't be passive. There's a balance to be had here. Track absolutely everything: who replied, who didn't reply, who got messages, who got responses, what messages got ignored, and what led to meetings. And I love it when you get a client who comes through and signs on the dotted line. Go over that whole journey again, right from the very first outreach. How did it initiate? What was the conversation? And it's so helpful to help you look at your client journey and how to kind of replicate that and improve it. But here's the truth: don't forget, 2026, you've got to not commit to the thousands and thousands of people to get connected. Yeah, don't worry about it. I've got 15,000. It's a vanity metric. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about the true relationships that I'm having on LinkedIn currently. Connect with the right people, start the genuine conversations, and then those conversations into the opportunities. And it's about precision. So if you just implement some of those strategies, you'll really see your results improve dramatically. But here's what I want you to remember most: LinkedIn's made these changes because the way the platform now delivers better experiences to its users. They're not trying to make your life harder. They're actually trying to make the spam getting through harder, and the genuine relationship building is going to be made easier. So when you align your strategy with LinkedIn's goals, everything just becomes simpler. You're working with algorithms, not against it. You're building real relationships, not just collecting connections. Yes, if you've got 15,000 connections, it's a fantastic asset that you can tap into if you tap into it. If you're not doing anything with your existing connections, then there's a problem there. We need to save that for another video. Create value. Don't just extract it from everyone else. So I'm going to leave you with this. The LinkedIn outreach revolution of 2026. Completely new skills. It's elevating those skills that you've got. It's about being a bit more strategic, a bit more genuine, a bit more valuable. So the businesses that I see are going to dominate on LinkedIn this year are going to be the ones that understand that shift. They're not looking for the shortcuts. They're not trying to hack the system with AI, with Claude, and automate absolutely everything, but they're actually building the real relationships at scale. They're using technology to enhance what they're doing, not to replace what they're doing, the human element, just to enhance it. And I want to be clear about something. This isn't harder than what you were doing before. It's just different. Once you understand the new rules and you understand your approach with how LinkedIn wants the platform to operate, it actually becomes much easier. You're swimming with the current instead of going against it. So think about it this way. Would you rather send 100 generic connection requests and get maybe 200 acceptances, or sorry, send a connection request and get 200 acceptances, 20 replies and 2 meetings? Or would you rather send 10 or 100 maybe highly personalized connection requests, get maybe 70 of those accept, and then 30 of those reply, and then 10 meetings? Same effort, but dramatically different results. And that's what we've been talking about here. That old approach was spray and pray. The new approach is now to aim and deliver. So that old approach was about volume, and the new approach is very much about value. That old approach was hoping something would stick, whereas the new approach is knowing that it's going to work because you've done the research, you've demonstrated value, and you've built those genuine relationships. So that's what this entire LGM or lead generation masterclass series is about. Over the every single week for the next year, I think I've got 3 weeks off. I'm going to try and dive in deep into every aspect of modern lead generation. We're going to help you. We're going to give you frameworks, templates, strategies that you can implement immediately. But it all starts here with understanding that 2026 is a little bit different. The rules have changed, but the opportunities have actually increased. And now you're equipped to take advantage of them. So before I wrap up, it'd be great to hear from you. If you're in LinkedIn, feel free to comment in the chat. And hopefully I can get back to you and respond to you within the 24 hours. But yeah, think about what's the one thing that you're going to implement from today's session. Get a conversation going. I'm reading every single comment on the chats. It's me. I'm there. I want to know what's on your mind. So if you found really great value in today's session, do me a favor, share it with someone else who needs to hear this, tag a colleague in, send them a link. the more people who understand how LinkedIn truly works in 2026, then the better the platform will become for us all. So thank you so much for for being here for this first session this week. Next week we're going to be diving into what I call the 7-second connection request rule, and that exact formula is going to be used for connection requests that get accepted over 80% of the time. I'm going to show you the specific structure, the exact language patterns, and the psychology behind why it works. So you don't want to miss that out. Same time, same place next week. We might make it a little bit more interactive, so there could be a Google Meet environment to supplement the LinkedIn Live and supplement the this goes out to YouTube as well. So I haven't got many followers on YouTube, only about 400 or so. So find me on YouTube. It's Leadeth, youtube.com/the @ symbol, and then just Leadeth, Leadeth, as my new lovely sign, like that. So yeah, look us up on YouTube, like and follow and subscribe. I really appreciate that. So make sure you don't miss next week. Until then, go implement everything that you've learned today. Don't just watch this and forget about it. Pick one thing. Maybe it's just optimizing your profile. Maybe it's crafting those better connection requests. Maybe it's starting to post content. Whatever you do, action will create results. Knowledge without action is just entertainment, and I'm not here for entertainment. I want to really help you and support you going forward. So, 6th installment of the Lead Generation Masterclass. I'm going to stick around on LinkedIn till about 2 o'clock and do some commenting, chat around this video. Just another mention, we've also got a free school community. You can access that at Leadeth, Leadeth.io. So leadeth.io/school, spelled SKOOL. I'll leave some links in the chats on LinkedIn and YouTube as well. It's a free community, just getting like-minded business owners together who are interested in generating more leads, doing more business and growing their businesses. And maybe you want a bit more education around LinkedIn or marketing. That's the place to come, ask questions. And I've got quite a growing number of members on these communities now. So thank you very much.